Thank you. So welcome to this Dharma talk this evening, which I've called Taking Refuge in the Body. I've been pondering a bit recently, as many of you probably have, about how much there is to mull over at the moment, how much there is to mentally chew on. And from the Buddha Dharma perspective, I'd like to explore tonight the fact that when we're grounded in an intimate experience, an intimate awareness of the life of the body, we have a much better chance of acting wisely and in an open, receptive way than if we're caught up in stories and concepts and views, which often leaves us acting from a reactive space. And we can end up, as one teacher I know says, calls us heads on sticks, when we're completely, we've left the body behind essentially, and we're caught up in stories and views and opinions in the mind. So I'd like to unpack that a bit this evening. And in that context, I've been thinking about how we've probably all had experiences where we've been in the zone, as they say. And we see how athletes and dancers and yogis and, well, we probably all have an experience. Maybe we're gardeners, artists, walkers, whatever the case may be. We all probably have an experience of being in the zone where we're actually in a full embodiment, an experience of full embodiment, when the mind is either quiet or it's working very closely in unison, we might say, with the body. And there's a feeling of life free flowing through us unimpeded. And this can be really memorable, and also it's very powerful. And during these moments, these fully embodied moments of awareness seem to encompass everything and everywhere and every when. So in formal meditation practice, we're actually training to bring such mindfulness to present moment experience by immersing awareness in the body. And this, some of you will know, is the first satipatthana, or the first way that we establish mindfulness when we're doing Theravada practice, such as we've been practicing this evening. So this is expanding the lens of attention, as we did in the practice tonight, to actually feel or take in the whole body. And this training eventually keeps us more steady, more alert, and in an embodied presence. And it provides an anchor, a rooted resting place for awareness that catches sight of the fleeting pickpocket move of mind that steals us endlessly from reality, as the Zen teacher Susan Murphy states it. This anchoring means that our feet are rooted firmly in the earth, and it means we can weather the storms of life with greater resilience. We're not swept off our feet or knocked off centre by whatever life brings. And life's certainly been bringing us some big things to deal with recently. So this is when our practice really can show up and help us in powerful ways. So there's two suttas in the Pali Canon, which is the teachings of the Buddha encompassed in the Pali Canon, which offer us really helpful images of the protection that I'm explaining here, that's provided by mindfulness when it's immersed in the body. So I'd like to have a look at a few of these now. So one sutta is the Kayagata Sati Sutta. And the Buddha gives a few images of metaphors, essentially, that show how mindfulness immersed in the body really protects us in different ways. And the first image is of a solid timber door panel and a ball of string thrown against that door panel. So if you imagine that, hefty solid door and a ball of string being thrown against it, the string doesn't make a dent in the door due to the solidity of the door. And he likens this to someone who has mindfulness immersed in the body. We can't be dented by sensory experience that comes and goes because we're steadfast like that door. It's a really powerful image. The second image that he gives is of a fire stick. So those of you who know about traditional fire making methods, and you have an upper fire stick and then I can't remember what it's called, but a block that you rub the fire stick in. So he's talking about the upper fire stick rubbed against a wet, sappy piece of wood, which a fire obviously can't be made because the wood is wet and sappy. So as much as we rub that upper fire stick, we're not going to have a fire made in that sappy piece of wood. And he likens this as well to somebody who has mindfulness immersed firmly in the body as one that cannot be set alight by sensory experience. So this is suggesting a non-reactive receptivity, an equanimity which is strengthened by mindfulness when it's immersed in the body. And the third image that the Buddha gives is of a water pot on a stand full to the brim with water. And someone comes along with a load of water and can't put another drop of water in that water pot. And this is suggesting a fullness of mind that is provided by the mindfulness immersed in body, that comes with this clear seeing. When we have a mind that's immersed in the body, we see clearly how things are. We're not caught up in stories and concepts, but we're actually we're firmly rooted in the present moment experience of what's happening here and now. And this doesn't leave room for anything extra to be added. We're already present. Nothing else can be taken on by this being in that state. So these three powerful images really signify the safeguarding that mindfulness immersed in the body brings us against being thrown around and off center by chasing after sensory experience. The other sutta is called the Chapana Sutta, the 6 animals. And this also offers a powerful image of the security which the mindfulness immersed in the body provides. So there's an image in Chapana Sutta of 6 different kinds of animals tied together. It's not it's not an image of kindness. It's quite a shocking image. And each animal, each different kind of animal is trying to run or fly or slither in its own direction, pulling the others along. And this is a metaphor for how we let the 6 senses run amok, pulling our attention here and there towards certain sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts or mind states. So one moment, one will dominate and pull the others along, the other senses along, and then give up, and then another one takes over. Only to be dragged then in another direction by another one of the senses taking over. This is the image of the 6 animals being, fighting for domination. But the Buddha says if the 6 animals instead are tied at the center to a sturdy post set into the ground, they will eventually tire and settle down next to the post. And this is the image the Buddha gives. Again, it's not a very savory image, talking about the animals, but it's a very powerful image in that it shows us how we let the mind and the other senses carry us away in all directions. And the post is a powerful metaphor for the mindfulness that we can absorb in the body. We can settle the mind in the body, which then helps calm the senses, enabling them to stay close to home, so to speak. And this happens because training the mind in this way naturally and eventually brings a sense of calm and ease to the body. And this seeps into the mind and vice versa. So any ease that it's built up in the mind seeps into the body. They work in tandem, in unison in this way. So with a body-centered awareness, the mind can settle, and then the sense impressions can then be received by the undefended sense doors. So the eyes we're not racing out to grab hold of attention because we have this fullness of mind that's settled in this very grounded awareness. So then me and my mind can stop racing around and settle back to just receive the sights and the sounds and the thoughts that come our way without being thrown around. So the issues of time and the concept of not self are really irrelevant here in this process. When we're caught up in the mind's proliferating thoughts, stories, views, and concepts, we're actually usually lost in the past and future. So we're either in the clutches of memory, which is the past, or in fantasy, which is the future. So we're often berating ourselves for what did or did not happen, what should have happened, or what we want to happen, or fear will or won't happen. And these can all entangle us in mind states that continue our suffering. Conversely, though, when we're immersed in mindfulness of the body, the past and future drop away and we're absorbed in the present moment, tracking what is unfolding right now. And this is exactly why our formal meditation practice is so powerful, because when we help settle the mind and the body in this way through formal practice, it has no end of riches and fruits and rewards for us in our day-to-day life. Because the body and bodily sensation is always in the present, the body can't be in the past or the future. It's experiencing memory now. It's experiencing the future thoughts now. So when we have mindfulness firmly rooted in the body, we're guaranteeing ourselves living in the present moment. And then the concept of time itself can drop away completely. And time actually expands when we're really embodied in present moment experience. And this is what I spoke about before when we talk about in the zone. We probably all know that feeling of, if we've been dancing or in nature at some time, or doing some extreme sports, if that's what you're into, or even or running, for example. When you're in the zone, time drops away and you have no sense of past or future. But when we're pulled away from this presence, it's often due to some thought or mind state that's generated by a feeling tone that tugs us away. So we find ourselves constantly seeking and moving towards the pleasant and the pleasurable, and away from, moving away, flinching from the painful and the unpleasant. And we look for escape routes in this way all the time, quite unconsciously. And when we do that, we tend to then pile concepts on top of concepts, striving to move towards more pleasure, towards more success, more approval, excitement, etc. And we were at the same time, of course, we're moving away from rejection, failure, boredom, mediocrity, or even just simplicity. You know, our culture is so hell-bent on throwing so much stimulus our way these days that we get bored so easily by just simply sitting on a chair and looking at the sky, or sitting with a cup of tea and not reaching for our device. Excuse me. And we withdraw awareness from the life of the body in these times and live in the mind, because the mind promises us so much. It's constantly affirming our stories and ideas about the star of the show, me. So of course it's compelling and addictive. Yes, this is who I am. No, that's not who I am. This is how life is. This is how it should be. We're addicted to this affirmation and this search for affirmation. And it narrows down life. It keeps things comfortable. And in this way, we use concept in order to censor experience, and in particular to keep fabricating this sense of me and mine. And in this way, we manipulate concept to the self's desire to stay in the driver's seat at all costs. And I just want to say here too that this is not to say that concept's bad or wrong. It's just that we get caught up in concept so easily at the expense of staying grounded in the body. And that's when it becomes a problem. But life lived immersed in the body awareness shows us clearly, on the other hand, there's nothing we can rely on or assume or predict. Staying present to whatever is here is never what we think it will be, and never what we think about what is happening. And I like to do the experiment of, you wake up in the morning, there's a list of things in the mind that you want to achieve that day. You've got a plan of commitments, meetings, blah, blah, blah. And it's so interesting to then look back at the day, at the end of the day. I've got a frog in my throat. 1 second. It's so interesting to look back at the end of the day to see that never once has it turned out the way that you imagined at the beginning of the day. It's such a good reminder for the unpredictable and the mysterious way that life moves. So when we decide to stay with the body, stay grounded in awareness in the body, we're essentially agreeing to experience everything that comes our way, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or that which numbs or confuses us. And this is no small task. This is a big commitment, and this is what we keep coming back to sit on the cushion for, I think, to keep recommitting to this agreement that we're making to stay with whatever comes our way. And because the body is slow, it's slower than the mind. The mind is so fast and the body is much slower. It also means that we need to take the foot off the pedal to be aware of the nuances of the life of the body. And this is a whole different paradigm in our modern, fast-paced world. So there's some challenges with this. And also, many of us have been taught that the body is untrustworthy and wild. So when we come to meditation practice, it's often a long road of unlearning of retraining ourselves to trust the body again, to give authority to it, to offer reverence to the flow and the pulsation of life through this physical being. And this takes time and it takes gentleness. To really listen to the body, though, is like a homecoming. It is really that powerful. Because after all, experience happens in this human body, as the Buddha himself realized. After all his early striving and ascetic practices in which he brutally punished his body and pushed himself to the physical limit of almost to the point of death. Luckily for us, he realized the error of his harsh ways and that harsh path. And he remembered a time as a young boy, and many of you will know this story, such a beautiful story in the turning point for the Buddha in coming back to the body. He remembered a time as a young boy, he was sitting under a rose apple tree, in the cool shade of a rose apple tree on a hot day when his father was working the fields. And he experienced a flooding of good feeling in his body right through his being. A feeling of relaxation, of mental and physical ease. And this was an ease that wasn't dependent on any worldly pleasure. It just arose in him. We might call this a sense of inner well-being. And this inner sense is open to the flow and the impermanence and the mystery of life, which is always fresh and new and surprising. You can't take anything for granted in this embodied awareness. There's a beautiful Zen poem by a man called Alberto Coelho, and it says, "Not believing in anything, I just sit, listening to my breathing. After 30 years, it still goes in and out." I get the sense here that Alberto Coelho is still amazed after all these years at the freshness and the unpredictability of each breath. His poem suggests a true intimacy and a reverent attention to this breath, and then this one, and then this one, not taking any of them for granted. And yet, in his words, the rhythm of "here it is again," when he says it still goes in and out, the reliable anchor of it, the acceptance of this in-breath leading to the next out-breath, and knowing the dependence of things on each other at the same time as their impermanence, or because of their impermanence. This breath could be my last. Coelho puts aside concepts and views and ideals. He says, not believing in anything. And then the mind's propensity for fixing on things, for solidifying life into a particular shape that limits and removes vitality, can't get in the way of his intimate experience of this breath coming in and going out of the body. And it's so simple. Listening to my breathing. That's it. Nothing special. And yet the incredible mystery and miracle of one breath nourishing all the cells of the body and then leaving again. I think this is such a beautiful reminder, this poem, to us all, to come back to ourselves, to come back to the body in each moment of practice, whenever we can, and live the lives we've been given in this physical form. To a life of presence grounded in this body, aware of this breath and this sound, this thought. Stepping out of our limiting habits to remain true to what's actually happening now, right here. This is the path leading to liberation, as the Buddha taught in the Asankata Samyutta. He told those present that liberation is the ending of obsession, aversion, and delusion. and that the path leading to this liberation is mindfulness immersed in the body. He goes on to say, over there are the roots of trees, over there empty dwellings. Meditate, don't be negligent. Don't have regrets later. This is my message to you. It's a powerful sutta to say that liberation is the ending of obsession, of aversion and delusion, and that the path leading to this is mindfulness in the body. And then the path leading to that, or the methodology leading to that liberation, is to meditate, is to stay immersed in the body. So in terms of practice, how do we know mindfulness is immersed in the body? What tells us that mindfulness is immersed in the body? We feel the body from the inside. We sense what's happening in the body in any moment. And this is not the thoughts or the concepts about the body, but the actual felt sensations as they occur. And for example, the palm, just simply putting the palms of the hands together. You might want to do this right now. How does the body tell you that the hands are resting together? What tells you that the hands are resting together? Not thinking about this, but just feeling it. Is there warmth, coolness, or both? Tingling, pulsation, pressure? Maybe roughness, smoothness, dryness, clamminess. You might feel all these things, and it's all valid. This is our bodily experience. Maybe movement, micro movements. We could make a lifetime of practice just feeling our hands resting together, actually. So during daily activity, or while sitting in meditation, we might simply ask ourselves, what is happening in the body right now, as a way to come back? What is happening in the body right now? And it might be that all you feel is numbness. That's your experience. That's your experience in the body, numbness. You might feel coolness on the skin. You might feel warm, tingling toes. It doesn't have to be a big, powerful sensation. Whatever your experience is in any moment is your experience. The other beautiful practice that really brings us in touch with the body is becoming aware of the elements. So the four main elements of earth, air, fire, and water. And when we tune into the flux and flow of earth through hard and soft. So earth is this sense of solidity in the body. So you might feel the element of earth right now as pressure of the bottom on your chair under you. Or feel the temperature of fire, heat and cold. And this might simply be letting the breeze waft across the skin and sensing the temperature of that. The element of water is the element of cohesion, of wet and dry. So of liquidity and cohesion. And this is often a difficult one to find in the body. You might find it in the mouth, wetness. But a lot of the time dryness is difficult to find unless you're touching parts of the body. And the other element is movement, which is air, the element of air. And we can sense this in the body all the time, most likely. We'll sense movement somewhere in the body. So this is another beautiful practice to get in tune with mindfulness immersed in the body, to coming into contact with it really quickly, is to get in touch with the elements in the body. And to sense the flux and flow of the movement of those elements through our awareness. And an inquiry regarding this is, can anything here be held onto and stopped in its flux? So movement, can we hold on to that in the body in any way? When you feel heat or cool in the body, can that really be held onto? If you really tune into that mindfulness immersed in the body in that way, to heat and cold, see what happens to it. And can any of it be called me or mine? And if not, what does this tell us about the flow of experience and our thoughts about ourselves and our thoughts about life? So just to summarize and to go back to the Kayagata Sati Sutta images, with mindfulness anchored in the here and the now, in the body, we're protected from the mind being set alight by sense desire. We're inviting an inner sense of contentment, and joy to arise, because we don't need any further fulfillment from external pleasures. And we're resilient to whatever life throws at us. In such tumultuous times, this kind of refuge is indeed worthy of our attention, I think. Okay, thank you very much for your ears.